This is Laugh or Death, hosted by keynote speaker Paul Ozenkup.
You are going to love my guest today. Nina Sossamon-Pogue was a member of the USA Gymnastics team, an Emmy Award-winning TV news anchor, and a tech executive. And now she's the author of 2 books. She's a keynote speaker, helping people and organizations navigate modern pressure, uncertainty, and change in a more sustainable way. Nina, stoked to have you here.
Hey, Paul. It is wonderful to be here. I'm excited about the conversation.
Yeah. So you said that you were doing a little research about me and this podcast. So you probably know then that the first question coming at you is, what's something weird about you that you love, or something weird that makes you happy?
Probably something weird more so that I love. And no matter how old I am, and I keep aging, funny how that works, I love to do handstands. And I will do handstands all the time, all over the place. If I'm in a bad mood, I'll just, in the middle of the living room, kick up to a handstand and kind of get over myself.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, I mean, being a gymnast, it's like, so you can still do a wicked handstand, huh?
I can. And I'm pushing 60, so I'm pretty proud of that. Yeah. It's weird, I'm proud of it.
What's the, I don't know, weirdest place you've done one? I mean, have you ever just in the middle of the airport been like, all right, it's handstand time, people?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. Against a wall or around a corner up against a pole or something. Just I need to be upside down for a minute to get, because, you get in your own head and it kind of takes me out of my own head and makes me laugh at myself. But the funniest thing that I do, here's one I thought of now that I said that. I get the biggest kick out of when you're in a hurry and you put on, I wear hoodies a lot, like a gray hoodie. I get the biggest kick out of it when I'm in a hurry and I put it on backwards on accident.
There you go.
It cracks me up every single time. No matter how many times I've done it in my life, it always makes me laugh out loud. It's very funny.
Well, now you just need to put the hoodie on your legs and walk around on your hands.
You're asking a lot.
You could make a whole character out of that. Oh, that's cool. So, and I imagine it does. It completely resets. You can't really take yourself seriously after you've been standing on your head
and you're
for
upside
a little
down.
bit.
Yeah,
particularly in public.
Oh yeah. I don't do it so often in public, more so when I'm on my own. But there are occasions where I will, or if I've had a few glasses of wine, someone will dare me to, and I am not one to step away from a dare, so that always happens.
Even after a couple glasses of wine, you could still rock the handstand, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a group of us who were gymnasts together in the 80s at LSU. So after I was on the U.S. team and then didn't make the Olympics in 84, I went to LSU and was a gymnast there. And there's 5-6 of us that get together every year, and every year we have a handstand contest. I don't usually win. Suze always wins because, she's a rock star. But it's very fun. It's very fun for all of us to kick up to a handstand.
I love that so much. So all of you still keep in touch and you get together. Do you have a weekend of it or a night or something?
We usually go back to, because it's in Louisiana. None of us live there. One of the girls still lives there. And all of our kids, some of our kids went to LSU during those years when our kids were at LSU. We had reasons to go back to campus more often. But now we go back, we try to go back once during football season and do a football game all together for an alumni it's gymnastics, baseball, a bunch of our friends and different sports. And then we go back for the alumni weekend for gymnastics, which is a spring sport. So we try to go once in the fall and once in the spring. Now that we have some, bandwidth to travel and our lives are a little easier than when we had kids at home. Yeah.
Why does it sound so much more wholesome when women do things like this than when guys get together and relive all right, I bet I could still take you on the wrestling mat. You know what I mean? It's sounds so stupid. You all get together and it's let's see who can do the longest handstand. That sounds so great.
I'm glad you think it's wholesome because there's not a whole lot wholesome going on those weekends.
Yeah, that's probably true.
They're a whole lot of fun,
funny.
And there's way too much wine and ridiculousness, but the handstand is always part of it.
Yeah, that's good. So I'm curious about your career because I imagine you started doing gymnastics, since you were a little kid, if you were good enough to get on the LSU team and on the USA Gymnastics team. So that was probably your entire life and identity up to that point, I would imagine. Tell me about, as you got into doing gymnastics very competitively and made the team, and then you mentioned you didn't make the Olympic team, and I know there was an injury in there somewhere, how things shifted for you.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of what I talk about. I speak on change, and I've gone back and looked at my life. I've had some big changes, and that was one of the biggest, one of the first big changes in my life. So you train. I started training when I started doing gymnastics when I was 4 or so, competing by the time I was 5 or 6. Moved away from home at 13. It was my whole world. So I'm 17 when the Olympics come around, and I don't make the Olympic team. After I made the U.S. team, so I was in Japan, Hungary, Germany. I got to travel a bunch. Back with Mary Lou Retton back in the day. It was the 80s. And then I don't make the team, and I had to reset and figure out what life was like. Huge disappointment. But, only a few girls make it. And there's a lot of us that were, top 20 is kind of the U.S. team. We get to travel. And only back then, 6 girls made it. So I didn't, and I had to kind of reset who I was and figure that out. And then I went to LSU and was, one of the top recruits and had a great start at LSU. And then I blew out my knee. I had to rethink life again at that point. And then I got into television, and then I did that for years. And there were times there I had to rethink and reset. Rethinking like the way life doesn't go as planned. I'm a big, life doesn't go as planned, but you got to, okay to not be okay, just not okay to stay that way. You got to figure out what you're going to change. Yeah.
Well, and you've chosen, with those 2 first careers, you chose very high stress, very competitive careers. I'm curious with like gymnastics, for example, were there times when in order to compete at such a high level, were there times that you can think of that humor helped with your teams at all, or any funny moments in that very highly stressful environment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always joke that back when the year that Mary Lou Retton won her first won the USA Championships, I won Miss Congeniality. I was the one, and we have pictures of us like laying on the mats beforehand and stretching and stuff and laughing and cutting up. I remember going to Vegas and all of us, like everybody's very serious. We're competing, in MGM Grand in Vegas. Like it's a big deal. But then the handful of us try to sneak in and do the slot machines and laughed, and we're like tucking in our shirts and dumping the quarters down our, trying to run away because we were too young. There was always a level, for me, it's such a serious sport, and you can't be silly when you're out there. You have to take it seriously. You can get very badly injured if you're not being serious when you're out there competing. But away from the mat, away from the floor, away from the stretching, like there were moments when you could just, smile and cut up a little bit. In actual training and competition, you can't. You really have to be pretty serious. I did have a floor routine that I did, though, in my most successful years, and it was to the dating game, and it was a funny floor routine that I did.
Oh, that's great.
So it was kind of silly and goofy, and that I've always had a little bit of, yeah. You remember?
How did people take that? Like, because I know most of the like floor routines and the music, it's like very intense or motivational, that kind of stuff. How did people take that?
It was fun. The audience would get into it, and I enjoyed doing it. I did a part where I like banged my head and like silliness back when you're a kid. But
That's cool.
It was always my personality was always to not take myself too seriously and to enjoy the journey along the way. So I've been a big proponent of laughter and throwing in a little fun, I guess, in more ways than I thought. I hadn't even thought about that when we were going to do this show.
Well, yeah, like you think about those days, and I'm sure there were a lot of moments where as a team, the traveling and that kind of stuff, tons of laughter and goofing around and that kind of stuff. And that's probably what helps you, gives you a little bit of the space to then carry the stress of the intense moments of the training and the competition and that kind of stuff. It just gives you a little bit more bandwidth to be able to carry the real intense parts.
It does. And I think I learned that in gymnastics, when to be very serious. And it was not just a high stress situation. It's a very public sport. People see your errors, you fall on your face, they see it. And then when I got into television, I found that use of humor also really important. And you have to be serious. So I can't be on the air talking about shootings and stabbings and serious things all the time and not take myself out of it every once in a while to keep my own sanity. But we had little sayings and little things even in television where we would keep each other a little lighter. So the world didn't seem so heavy and so serious. And once again, everyone sees your mistakes when I did very public, very high stress jobs. But we had times in television too where the funny stuff just kept coming up. Oh, wait, here's one of my favorites. We're going to commercial. Someone said, we did a story and there were some babies in it or something. And then we were coming back and it said, we will have more on babies when we come back. And the person who read it said, more on babies. And we're like, oh, those poor moron babies. Like, to this day, I'm like, oh, those poor moron babies. Like,
Oh man,
Yeah.
we've got an entire segment on dumb babies. Yeah, they're
like moron babies. Like, wait.
moron babies.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that is so
More
funny.
on babies. Yeah. So anyway, there were moments like that we would just laugh and make ourselves, chuckle with, because you can only take it so seriously for so long. We had little sayings like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's so great.
That
yeah,
just kept coming up.
Having done some live TV segments, I've just got such respect for anchors that do live TV. Just watching you all like be just normal human beings, during the commercial, and I'm sitting there going, it's 10 seconds until it's coming on, right? Like
That's
I
a
can
long
see it as the
time.
guest. Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're not even ready, like, and they're just kind of like chatting with each other. Okay, whatever. And I'm sitting here like sweating, going, what's going on? And then they're, and then it's like 2 seconds
Turn it
before they're
on.
like, and we're back. Okay. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
I did 3 shows a day for 20 years. So you do get used to that. And that, and there are moments that are really funny. I think the funniest moment for me on TV, as all these years of doing television, I was huge and pregnant. And I was pregnant with my second child. And I'm short. I was as wide as I am tall. I was a very large pregnant woman, not attractive. It was bad.
My sister was that way. My sister's like 5'1", and she had twins. And I was like,
Oh,
wow, you're
wow.
taller laying on your back than you are standing up.
Mine weren't twins, but I was the same. I loved to eat. It was really an excuse to like eat everything. Anyway, I
Right.
got huge and I'm on the air and my co-anchor had called. He was off that night. It was like a Friday night. And there's always a kind of not silly, but a humorous or a heartwarming story at the end. We call it the kicker. So you end the news on kind of a happy story. And that was more so of a thing back in the day, but you still see it sometimes now. But this night we were doing a story and it was on a state fair. And I had sort of read through it, but I hadn't seen the video. When you read through and prep, you don't see the video. And so I start reading it and it comes up and I'm single anchoring. So there's no one to go to when I start laughing and can't lose and I'm losing it. So it comes up, it's a video, and I was doing the story on the chicken at the state fair who laid the largest egg. And here I am, big and pregnant, doing this story, and this chicken's like walking, trying to lay this, and I just could not get the words to come out of my mouth. I don't know why. I was so tickled. And then I could, like, when you just can't talk, you're laughing there. So then they cut to the weatherman to see if he could like save me, and he's laughing. Then they cut to the sports guy. All 3 of us, we probably just put our head on the table and went, "Bye, y'all." Like, could not speak.
You and the chicken are just waddling.
Yes,
like,
it looked like me. Like, get this giant egg out of me. Anyway,
man, your producer set you up, man. That is hilarious. That's so funny.
So there's humor. The humor has always been some of the things I remember more so than all the serious stories.
It's funny. I'm asked, because of what I do, I'm asked a lot, like, what makes me laugh or what's my go-to when I need to laugh. And for real, the probably number one thing for me are videos of news anchors not able to keep it together.
Oh, it's so fun.
When they screw up and they're laughing. There's something about people not being able to control their laughter that makes me laugh. Like there's this old episode of, I think, the Mary Tyler Moore Show, where she's at a funeral for a clown. And it's like very serious, they're trying to eulogize this guy, but she cannot stop laughing. And it's like one of the funniest moments in TV for me, because I just can't, I'm like her, I just can't stop laughing. So yeah, there's something, you probably brought a lot of humor to people that day when you were,
I'm
when you were
sure.
pregnant.
I'm sure. And there are other times too when, I never took myself too seriously. And then in news, you do mostly tough stories. And sad and disturbing things. It wouldn't be news if it was the norm. It's the bad stuff. So when you do have a chance to be light or to bring some levity to it, I think it's really important. So we would try to do that as often as possible. And I didn't take myself too seriously. It was never. There's some people in that business can be really, really tough on you because you do so much bad stuff. So I was really careful to mix in some levity.
Didn't I also hear a story about you and a cup of beer at Mardi Gras? Is that?
Oh, yeah. Where did you hear that?
I don't know. I'm good at my job.
Okay, when I was a young reporter, so I started at WBRZ in Baton Rouge. I was a gymnast at LSU, and then I started working at the TV station there as a sports reporter, and then I got to became a general assignment reporter. And early on, they sent me to cover Mardi Gras. And I had been to Mardi Gras, but I didn't know news. I was the first, new in the business. I didn't know exactly how it all worked. So I was in the morning show, and I went with the crew for the morning show, and we all piled into this place, and we got up like 3 a.m. to get ready for the 5 a.m. morning show, a live shot, And I'm the newbie reporter and doing the live shot from out there. And I'd been live from, a state fair or from a shooting or from a something, whatever was happening. But this was different. And so I'm out there live, and we pull up the truck, and we're there, and we check the audio, and the people back in the studio, I could hear them, they could hear me. And the guy never turned the lights on. It was just me standing there and doing the check. And I didn't think anything of it because I figured they knew what they were doing. These photographers and these guys were like in their 40s and 50s. I was in my 20s, like barely. And so they were running the show and just telling me what to do. And I was standing there trying to look cute and do my thing. And so they wait until right when the news anchors are going to throw to me. And the news anchors are in on this, and so is the whole crew out in the field. I'm the only one that doesn't know what's going on. And I'm in Mardi Gras, and it's 5 o'clock in the morning, but people are still partying. It goes. And I'm on Bourbon Street. And they wait till they say, and Nina's out on Bourbon Street this morning to see what's going on. And they throw the lights on. And as they throw the lights on me, it lights me up on the street. And I just get pelted with beer bottles and beads and Mardi Gras beads and beer cans and like people behind me and some like half-dressed guy, grinding up behind me. Just ridiculous. And I had no idea.
They knew this was going to happen.
Oh,
like
it happens every time.
Like every Mardi Gras, oh my gosh.
The early show has all the drunks that have been out there all night long, and they throw the light on, and it just is a thing. And so they knew it was coming.
The thought of that phenomenon, like you go out there with a news crew, and once the lights come on, all the Mardi Gras people go nuts. It reminds me of like mosquitoes to a light, like to your porch light or something like that.
Exactly.
It's like everything's quiet, and then you turn that news light on. It's like, bah.
It was exactly like that, but with a lot of very drunk, really ridiculous people.
And did you just handled it like you just wiped it off and reported? Okay. Yeah.
I laughed, and the crew back you could see the double boxes, kind of like we are right now, like 2 boxes. You could see the news anchor's crew, and you could see me. You could tell that they were in on it. They're like, we got her. So we all laughed, and it was, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. It's a morning show. People are still partying from the night before. That was what the story was going to be anyway, is that people are still out here partying, and that just proved the point.
Man, they talk about hazing in like athletics, but who knew news?
I had no idea. Yep.
Yeah.
And
so then I know you. Your news career. You went on to win Emmy Awards. You were, I think, Charleston's favorite news anchor. You had such a successful career, but it didn't necessarily end the way you were hoping.
Well, a couple of things happened. One, about I was like 37 or so. I had been in the business for quite a while. I was involved in a very public accident, and that took me off the air, and it put me in a position where I wasn't even sure if I wanted to do that again, like come back on the air. And then I also wasn't even sure if I wanted to keep going. I went through a really kind of dark time. But I did. I had some good therapy. I'm pro therapy, had some good help, and I went back on the air and kept doing news for a while. I also switched TV stations at one point. I went from being Charleston's favorite news anchor on a Thursday to being let go in budget cuts on a Friday. So I had that moment in my career too, where I was like, wait, do I want to keep doing this? But both times I came back, and then the industry just really changed. So in the 2007, right before the recession in 2008, the industry really changed. That's when everybody started to have, their information in their pocket. Wasn't 3 shows a day, then it was 4 shows a day, 5 shows a day, 6 half hours a day. You had to do social media, and you had to do all the other things. And it was no longer just fair, balanced, and accurate like you learn at journalism school. It was a very different animal. And I was ready to get out. So I got out and switched from TV to tech and jumped into a buddy's startup. But there were several things that had gone on in the years coming up to that made me go, I'm not sure I want to do this anymore and be so public. Yeah.
Yeah. Your career is just kind of marked by changes that either you chose or happened to you, with the injury, being laid off from the one news station and going, all right, well, I'll find myself on another news station, then choosing to go into tech. And I know that's a lot of what you talk about is like, how do you navigate change? Because I think, to me, particularly like career setbacks, we get so focused on our identity is like what we do for a living. What are some of your tips for how to manage it?
I actually use the acronym TIPS, so nice T up there. I call whatever you're going.
That one I didn't even know.
I can tell the way you said it. I'm like, oh, he's just going right there and doesn't even know it. Yeah, so I call whatever you're going through your big this. Like my first book is called This Is Not the End, whatever your this is, because we go through changes every day, and I call a this or a change anything that's just not part of the plan. It can be a little a big this, like losing your job or getting a divorce or going in that takes your whole life in another direction. Or it can be like a middle-sized this. I say all caps this, and then just a capital T this. And those are the ones that are maybe you're in a car accident and you are in a boot and you have to get your car fixed. Like it changes your life for a while, but then you can get back on track. That's a middle-sized this. And then there are these everyday thises. And they're you walk out of the house, you spill coffee on yourself and you got to change. Or you get your kid's school calls in the middle of a big meeting, or you get stuck in traffic. That's just every day. Someone calls in sick. Those are everyday thises. And I like to say, take the letters in this and rearrange them a little bit. And it's all that stuff. Yeah. Those little thises.
I never really thought about that. Oh, this shit again. Okay.
Exactly. All the little shit. So when I talk about how we get through the little changes, the things that aren't part of the plan, that kind of builds resilience. So we're better at handling the big changes. And I have an acronym TIPS, and I tell people it's a mix of my own mix of stoicism and neurology and neuroscience. But it's put it in a timeline, like put the whatever's happening in perspective on the timeline of your life. If you 0 to 100, what does that timeline look like? I have a great example of that if we have time for it. And then
go for it.
Oh, okay. Well, so think about this. When I blew out my knee, and I was a gymnast at LSU, I was 19, and I blew out my knee. Gymnastics, you had mentioned I did it from an early age. At that point in my life, gymnastics was 75% of everything that I knew. So, of course, it felt like my life was over. Like I ruined my whole life. I wasted it in a gym. And it felt like that because it was 75% of my life. Now, if I fast forward till I'm 50 and my 3 kids leave for college, then gymnastics is 28% of my life. And I've been parenting and being a mom for a lot longer than that. Mm-hmm. And then if I look at it, if I live to be 100, which I need to drink less wine and take better care of myself, but if I live to be 100.
Keep doing those handstands, though.
Yes, yeah, it helps. If I live to be 100, then gymnastics is only 15%. So that's the T part of tips. Like put it in perspective. This is a crappy chapter. This is a tough moment, but it's not your whole life. So the timeline piece.
All right, quick pause. I want to mention something I am stoked about. Let's be honest, most guys aren't going to therapy until things in their relationship are already going not so great. And if you've ever felt like you're doing the best you can in your relationship, but like something is just missing, trust me, you're not alone. And most of us, we don't get taught this stuff. We're just told like, you got to communicate better, but no one ever shows us or tells us exactly how to do that. And that's why I am loving Caveman to Casanova. It's not a bunch of lectures and it's not therapy. It's just simple, practical tools that help you show up as the best version of yourself. So whether it's like you want to learn how to handle conflict a little bit better or say what you actually mean without somehow making things worse, which we've all been there, it helps you do those things. It just starts with a quick quiz, and then it tailors the program for you based on what you could do a little bit better and what you're already doing really well. So if you want to be more intentional in your relationship without having to make it like a whole thing, then check out Caveman to Casanova. Or if you want to give your man a little nudge, I've put a link in the show notes. Check it out. That is, just the T part, the timeline is such a good, it's a way to just step back and look at perspective of, and also the older you get, the more experiences you've had, it's another way of looking back and going, man, I've been through some tough things before and gotten through them. Yeah. So there's no reason I can't get through this one as well. But when, the younger you are, the more inexperienced with these things you are. Yeah, this is like everything. And sometimes that we wonder why teenagers are so dramatic about the things going on
You're
in their
ruining
lives
my
and
life.
even in our 20s. Yeah. But it's like, well, yes, this is like, this is a huge part of their life so far.
Yeah. Well, I do a cool thing when I speak on stages. I say, everybody, think about your life when you were 10 years old. So think about summer when you were 10, Paul. Where'd you live?
I lived in Colorado.
Colorado. Probably a beautiful place to be a kid. Oh my gosh, how fun.
Yeah. Had a
So
blast. Yeah.
Summers were outside and hanging out with friends.
All the time, just playing basketball, playing football with my friends, going, just playing outside. And then sometimes my dad lived in Washington State, so I'd go visit him there. And then it was like exploring the woods and just, it was awesome. Yeah.
This big stretch of time where just like the summer seems so long. That's a massive stretch of time. And now think about, for you and for people listening, now think about summer when you were 40.
Right.
Does it feel like, does it seem that long?
Yeah, you think of like, like maybe 1 week long vacation that you could take during the summer, and it's like, oh yeah, I remember that one trip.
Right, but it just goes by in a flash. Like as if you're a
Right,
parent, like the kids come home and then they leave. Like, where did summer go? So I like to tell people, think about how those two things feel in your body. And when you were 10, that year of your life is 1/10 of everything you know in life. If it was a pie, you'd get a 10th of the slice of pie. And when you're 40, that year of your life is 1/40th of your life experience. So if it was a pie, you get a firm pie, And it's the same 365 days, 1/10 and 1/40th. So of course it feels like time's moving fast and the days are getting shorter, because as they're part of the bigger picture of our lives, it is a smaller part. Each day is a smaller part of the whole. And you want the whole to keep getting bigger, but every day of our lives is a smaller part of the whole. So it does feel like life can be moving really fast. And sometimes when I'm talking about these tips and I talk about putting things in perspective, that perspective piece, the timeline, it's really good to think about it, because you can be in a crappy chapter, but if you're 22 and you're in a crappy chapter, you got a lot of chapters ahead. Yeah.
Right. Well, and the perspective thing is, that's why I talk about humor and stuff so much, is because it also just lets us step outside of ourselves and go, okay, what's happening? Yes, it really is annoying me, or it's very sad or whatever. And I need to look at the perspective of life that also this is absurd, or this is temporary, or that kind of stuff. It's so important for us to be able to see that, like, life is dramatic and sad and hard, but it's also funny and absurd and insane sometimes.
Yeah, and laughter or humor doesn't erase the hard times. It just gives your nervous system something to deal with while you're going through a tough time. It's really important to take care of ourselves in that way.
Absolutely. I always say that humor is not the absence of stress. It's just a different way of carrying it.
Right.
Like kind of like when you were in gymnastics, you guys goofing around at that casino didn't mean that you didn't have the stress of the competition tomorrow, but it just let you carry it in a little bit different way, gave you maybe a little bit break from the burden of it. So, yeah.
Right. It's how we manage that stress so our bodies can reset a little bit and give our nervous system a moment of peace. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the this acronym. So T is for the timeline. What's the H?
And it's tips. I'm giving you, this is what you're dealing
tips.
with.
Yeah, tips.
I call it my this framework, because it's whatever you're this, whether
this
your divorce or your challenge or your new job or whatever, you're this.
Okay.
But it's tips, and it's timeline, and then I is for isolate. So not what happened before and not what might happen after, but what are you actually dealing with right now? Any good therapist will tell you, if you're spending all your time thinking about the woulda, shoulda, couldas, the past, that's where depression lives. And if you're thinking of all your time thinking about the future, the what ifs and the doomsday scenarios, that's where anxiety lives. So I always say isolate it. What are we actually dealing with right now? So that's the I.
And I love that. Yeah, I always say I'm a futurist. And by that, I mean I have anxiety.
It's true, though. I spoke at a cybersecurity conference. It was one of the most difficult audiences to tell this point to, because they have to live in that space. They live in the what if. They're living in the what if and in the future and what could go wrong. So it's imagine that world. That's a lot of high level stress if you live in a space where you're constantly having to predict the future. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But that's the isolate piece.
That's great. Okay.
And then the next part is P, is it's for people. And I'm a big fan of you don't go it alone. Those who have big success don't go it alone, whether you're an athlete and you have a coach, or you have a mentor, or you're a CEO and you look to other CEOs or people who have done it before. People who have big success or you get through tough times, whether it's a therapist or a mentor or a coach, you need people in your corner. The people who do well don't try to go it alone. So the P is for people.
Do you find like I know for me sometimes my brain plays tricks on me, like it makes me think that like I don't feel like hanging out with anyone or talking to anyone, or like I can just hunker down and be by myself for days and I'll be fine. But I know the neuroscience behind it, and it's like that is not the way human beings are supposed to roll, you know?
Yeah.
And so how do you manage that when it's like that people are helpful to you doing things better and lifting you up during hard times, but also it's like, man, isolating sometimes feels like
good.
It's the right thing to do even when it's not.
And I think that's the older I get, the more I like that isolation. The more very early in the day, I'm like, I am done peopling for the day. And after I raised 3 children into adults, now they're out adulting. I don't have to people with them anymore. And, on occasion they call or something. Like I'm done.
You're gonna get done with this. You're gonna get done with this podcast and be like, okay, that's enough for me. Yeah. So,
But,
sorry, I can't talk right now. I have a phone call to make in 3 hours.
Yeah. But I think that we co-regulate. It's really important that two things. One, if you think about the people part, one piece of it is when we try to go alone, we don't do our best. And you can take all the people in your life and you can, like I always say, turn a piece of paper over when I do their timeline stuff with folks. I'm like, turn a line down the middle and put who's helping and who's hurting on the 2 sides. And even the people who love us the most sometimes end up they're hurting. Like they're not helping me in this situation. Mm-hmm. So you can, who's helping in this situation, who's hurting. And it doesn't mean you don't love them. It just means where they are or whatever this you're going through. And then find someone that's in that good column that you can call. And if you can't, figure out someone to put in that column because you do want to have someone to go through it with you. And then the other concept is this idea of co-regulation. And people have all sorts of interesting ways to explain it, but I think of it this way: you've flown, right, Paul? You've been on an airplane at some point.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So you get on a plane, and then it's turbulent, turbulence, and you're bouncing around a little bit. And I'm one of those like grab the armrests, like an armrest person, and then then it drops, like it does, and you can feel your heart rate go up, and
your stomach's like right there,
there, and you're like, oh, what is happening? And then you see one of the flight attendants, and they give you a nod, like it's okay.
Yeah,
you see from even across, they just give you the nod, like it's okay. And what happens?
And then then you kind of like, okay,
you calm
I'm gonna
down.
Be fine.
Yeah, and your heart rate goes back down, that cortisol spike and that brain fog, like it all calms down. Nothing happened on the plane. Nothing changed. All you did was steal a little bit of confidence from somebody. Like that's co-regulation. That person, you nothing with the plane changed at all. It was still bouncing into everything. You just co-regulated with somebody. And that's a great way to think about when you step in a room, you're affecting the people around you. Or if you're looking for, someone to help you calm down, you need other people around to get you out of your own head. So the people part's really important when we're trying to have success, both for and how we get our own success and how we help other people succeed. Yeah.
Oh, I love that idea of someone who helps you co-regulate, because we've all got friends that we can vent with, but sometimes that creates a spiral of either negativity or increasing the drama and increasing the stress. And it's like, is that person really in the help column, or are they getting me more wound up? And so it's like, am I venting, or am I just creating more stress for myself?
Right. And you'll know. I mean, if you get quiet with yourself and ask, is this person helping or hurting? You know which one it is. You do.
Yeah. I like that. Maybe Warren G should have made a song called Co-Regulators. Mount up. Okay. But okay, I love the idea of that though, because you're absolutely right. When the flight attendants aren't panicking, you're like, oh, okay, well they do this all the time.
Right.
Seems super normal. Although
just borrow their courage. Yeah.
I've always wondered though, like, do they have to call their seats the jump seats? The pilot's always like, flight attendant, take your jump seat, and I'm like, whoa,
Are we
where's
jumping?
she going? Yeah, exactly. I'm like, why don't you just say take your seat? You know,
Right.
you
Well,
don't
and then
need to put the
we're
word jump
landing
in
at the
it.
terminal too. Like, do we have to call it a terminal? Like, really?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
A little
yeah,
more.
good point. Yeah. Oh man. Okay. All right. So, and then
The
the next part, the S. Yeah.
S is the story. So it's timeline. So you can put on the timeline, and then you isolate it. What are you exactly dealing with? And then I have people draw a circle around it and say, don't stay in the circle by yourself. You feel alone, but be in the circle. And then I have them right at the bottom of the page. This is what? What are you calling this thing? Because the words in your head come out of your mouth, and that becomes your story. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're constantly in our heads calling it, ruined, that fatal language, it's ruined, it's never going to work. Or if you're saying this is a challenge and I can do hard things, it's just the way in which you're talking about things. And one of the most important pieces of this is a lot of people have jobs they don't like and they come home and they just complain about their job all day long and I hate it and this.
Yeah.
And they live in that world and the people around them live in that world too. Your spouse, your kids, or your best friend, or whoever you interact with, that becomes the world they see you in. Is this person who lives in this world where they hate their job, or they don't like this, or they complain about that. And if you change your language, the people reflect that back to you, and your world changes. And so the story part is, what's the story in your head that's coming out of your mouth that's becoming the world that you live in? Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. To your point, with for example, like healthcare workers, counselors, people who are in jobs where they deal with a lot of compassion fatigue. One of the number one ways to counteract compassion fatigue is with compassion satisfaction. Like compassion isn't just something that exhausts us; it also fills our bucket. But a lot of times we focus on if we're constantly focusing on those negative stories as opposed to what did I love about what I did today? Like when did I make somebody's life or day better? And being able to, like at work or with our loved ones, be able to tell those stories of like wins and things we accomplished is really helpful to be able to counteract that. That's such a good point.
Yeah. So the story piece it's very much a part of how we get through tough things. So if you think about a this that you're going through, whatever it is that you're going through, so you're going through a tough time or a job or finances, you can put it in a timeline and figure out where it fits into your life. It's not your whole story. You're just in a tough chapter. And then you can isolate it, not what happened before or after. What are you actually dealing with right now that you can take action on? And then you draw a circle around it. People, who do you need to pull in? Who's helping and hurting? Find some people to help. And if there's nobody in there, pull them in. And then story. What are the words in your head? What are you calling this thing? So that's when you ask how you reset or rebuild. You have people who, like the peaked in high school guys that are the jocks, or someone who has done one thing and that's been their whole life, or they get stuck in it, or someone who gets divorced and stays bitter and angry and in that for the rest of their lives. Doing these four things, and it's a mix of stoicism and neurology to be able to go, okay, this is a tough piece of my life, not my whole life, and then to be able to figure out and to move it forward. It really does work in all of these ways. And when I had to reset from gymnastics to television, I used these four things. I didn't realize it till later. After a lot of research, I could narrow it down. But if you talk to, and I did it from TV to tech, it became a whole new world for me. I had to figure that out. I've been through a divorce. You had to figure it out through divorce. You have to figure it out through traumatic events in your lives and injuries. It just really helps you reset and rethink about this life that we're living. We get one life, And, this is the way you take control of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that so much. I mean, and it really is just kind of taking control of your brain, and going, hey, I'm not gonna let you drive all these negative thoughts because the way the thoughts I have about something and are going to affect the way I feel about it, going to affect my behaviors with it, which is just going to affect my thoughts the next time. So being able to say, no, hold on, I'm pausing this and doing it completely different. I think that's. I want to go through something I'm going through right now, and I want to put it through your.
Okay, let's do it. Let's put it through the filter.
So right now, my wife, she's a veterinarian, and she left her job back in November, and so she can't practice basically within our state for 2 years because of a non-compete.
Okay.
So that's a big change for us, and so for that time, she is out practicing, doing relief work all over the country for other. She's a veterinary oncologist, so other vet oncologists.
Oh, wow.
And so it's a huge change for us because she's gone a lot. I travel a lot already for work as well. So this has been like, since November, we're like ships passing in the night. So the timeline, if I think about this is 2 years, probably more like a year and a half that we're going to be doing this.
Right.
So really just thinking about like that in itself is like, we've been married 20 years. So that is going to be a blip on the radar.
Correct.
For
it's
our
a small
marriage.
part of the big picture. Yeah, it's a hard chapter. It's a tough one you're going to get through together. It's interesting. My husband doing the same, and I are doing the same thing. We're in the same boat. He's in Indiana, and I'm in Charleston. So, and we just started this last year too. But it's a finite amount of time till we figure out what's next, and it's kind of what we had to do with our careers at this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that we did like the year after we got married, she lived in another state while she did her internship. So it's like, I know we've already done this kind of difficult thing and gotten through it too.
So you did their timeline. You can see, like, if you put your line from 0 to 100, however old you are, it's like these couple of years that are going to be tough. And then if you isolate it, not what happened before and not what may happen after, what can you actually do now to make it more manageable and doable and get your head in the right place to know that this is just short term, and we can call and we can text and we can have coffee over FaceTime, and we can do whatever it takes to make it there. And financially, we can make some adjustments. It's not forever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And isolate it like, what can I do? What are things I can do right now to make this go better? One would be not just eat nachos for dinner every night. Maybe I'd still need to take care of myself. Okay.
Yes.
Even if I'm living as a bachelor for a little while. Okay. And then the P.
Who's helping and who's hurting? So, you know, and that's, are people supportive of this, or some people not? Because I know in my case, there's people on both sides of the fence there that think it's a bad idea and a good idea. But only you know what's best for you and your spouse. So the people is also, if you're struggling with it, do you need to get a therapist or get a marriage counselor to make sure you're on the same page with all of it? Or do you have someone who can help you cook and someone who can get you some decent meals? Maybe that's your person, Paul, if you are eating nachos for dinner.
I cook. I do all the cooking for our house, but I think now it's just an excuse. Like, she's not home. Why bother? Like, I'll just eat ice cream for dinner. It's fine. Yeah.
I do the same thing. I'm like, I could eat a peanut butter and jelly and a glass of wine. I'd be fine.
Exactly.
Easy.
Oh, man. Okay.
So
that's the people. And then finally the S again.
The story. So what are you calling this time that year? What is it? You said she lost she quit her job. That's the language you're using. She made a change. It sounds like you're in the middle of a transition.
Yeah.
So if you talk about it like we're in this transition period that's really tough and we're figuring it out together, that feels really different than she left her job and we're trying to figure, that just is a different vibe. So the language you use to talk about it.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I think both of us have done talking about it is she, ever since going from undergraduate, she went undergraduate, 4 years of vet school, internship, residency, full-time work. She has been grinding. And now she's getting time to be able to travel and do different things. And then when she comes home, she gets like a week where she's like at home, or maybe a couple weeks where she's at home.
Nice.
And so it's just such a different vibe for her for a while that she's never had. And so that is kind of fun. And for example, I'm going to be driving in a couple weeks up to Vancouver where she's at, and we're going to go camping on her weekends and that kind of stuff. So it's like, just trying to go like, this is an opportunity for us to do just new, cool stuff.
Right. We're calling ours this adventure. Like, the adventure, even because financially it's tough and we're having to sell a house and buy a house and we got all these moving parts and people don't all agree with how we're doing things. I'm like, it's our adventure. We are on this adventure together. And on the really bad days when, even last night when he called and he was like, okay, tell me this is going to work. I'm like, it's totally going to work. We're on the adventure,
Oh, man.
So at this point in life, it's fun to be on an adventure. We're not kids. We're on an adventure, and who knows, it may not work. We're going to give it a shot, but we're going to fail or survive it together.
Well, and it is important to try to look at the best side of it as you can while you're doing it, because it's going to be hard regardless. So why make it harder?
Yeah. So the word we chose was adventure. We talk about it. We're in the adventure, and I sometimes refer to myself right now, and probably like your wife, we may be similar in ages and parts of our career. I've done a lot of things like she probably has. And I call this, I'm like Nina 3.0. I don't know what Nina 3.0 is going to be. I'm just trying to figure out what this next chapter of my life looks like. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Well, hey, Nina 1.0 and Nina 2.0 have absolutely knocked it out of the park. So I imagine the new operating system is going to be even better the next time.
Thanks. And at the same time, I try not to put too much pressure on myself to live up to Nina 1.0 and 2.0 because I did do a lot of big things. I'm like, wait, can Nina 3.0 be a little chill, like not have to be so pushy?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes the best operating system is just being able to like have a good time and enjoy life a little bit.
Yeah,
and
exactly. there's that piece of that too that I'm really trying to remind myself to do.
Yeah. Well, Nina, this was awesome. I love your tips strategy. That is just something you can easily put any kind of change you're going through your this right into and just be able to take a deep breath and get a little perspective from it. So thank you so much. Where could people find you if they want to have you check out one of your books or have you speak at their event?
You can always find me at ninasossamon-pogue.com, which is a long name for you.
We got the link right there in the show notes. So
yes,
wherever you're listening or watching, just click it.
And you can find me on LinkedIn. I share a lot of business, not advice, but thoughts there to help people get through tough times. And on my Instagram, I post on Instagram daily with some fun thoughts and ideas. I think I'm hilarious, so I put some funny stuff out there. So I put some things out there to help people kind of get through a tough day.
Hey, anyone that can get through Mardi Gras on Bourbon Street as a reporter is hilarious in my book. So yeah, thank you so much for doing this, Nina. And again, wherever you're listening or watching, you can click on Nina's information in the show notes. And while you're doing that, go ahead and hit follow wherever you're watching this podcast. Take care.
Thanks, Paul.
You've been listening to Laugh or Death with Paul Ozenkup. If you're planning a conference or event and want something smart, meaningful, and actually funny, book Paul to speak. To learn more or to get a copy of his book, The Humor Habit, visit laughordeath.com.